Today, we are continuing with our series, 7 Mistakes High Achievers Make When They're Choosing Their Next Career Step. You can read the introduction to this series as well as mistakes number 1 through 5 at the link above. Today, we're jumping into mistake number 6, which is using the school grading model instead of using the matchmaking model. Now, as you look for your next career step, some of the work is reflection and introspection and research that you do by yourself, but inevitably, at some point, you're going to have to talk to other people. And the mistake that I see high achievers make when they talk to other people is that they use the school grading model to evaluate how the conversation went and what to do next, instead of using the matchmaking model. Let me explain what I mean. The school grading model works like this. You are a student in a class. There's a set curriculum that everybody needs to learn. There's a set rubric to evaluate whether or not you've learned the curriculum. And everybody has agreed that learning the material and getting an A in this class is a good and important thing to do. And in this setting, if you get a C on a test, your conclusion is, I did a bad job. I need to study harder and I need to get an A next time. Because you're being measured on a universal yardstick that everybody agreed to, you should not cut your losses and give up on this class. You should double down, figure out what went wrong, and try again to get an A. That's the school grading model. On the other hand, the matchmaking model works like this. You are a person on a date. You're looking for one compatible match. You only need one. And as you guys are chatting over drinks, they mostly want to talk about sports and their job and the marathon that they're training for. And you mostly want to talk about the books you're reading and your life outside of work and the travel plans you have coming up. And honestly, conversation just isn't that great. In this setting, if the person doesn't want to see you again, your conclusion is, or at least your conclusion should be, we just aren't a match. I didn't do a bad job. I don't need to do anything differently going forward. I just need to find a more compatible match. Because you're trying to find just one compatible match, not measure up to a universal standard, in this setting, you should not double down. You should not go become interested in sports and start training for a marathon and try to make this person like you. You should cut your losses and look for a better match. Now, as you start having conversations to brainstorm and refine and pursue your next career step, some of the people that you're going to talk to are just going to get it. They will love what you have to say. They'll tell you that all of this makes a ton of sense. They will happily connect you to other people, and you are going to leave those calls feeling fired up and energized and like you're absolutely on the right track. And other people that you talk to are just going to not pick up what you're putting down. They're going to be skeptical. They'll look confused. They'll ask you a bunch of doubtful questions. They'll tell you very politely that you're on the wrong track, and you are going to leave those calls feeling low and small. And the mistake that high achievers make is that when they have a not so great conversation, they treat it like getting a C on a test instead of treating it like a bad date. They use the school grading model to evaluate those conversations instead of using the matchmaking model. And when you use the school grading model to evaluate that conversation, you start doing things like wondering what you're doing wrong and asking what you need to do differently and wondering whether you're just completely off base about your next step, instead of just saying, oh, just had a conversation with someone who's not a match. It's a little annoying. Okay, on to the next. If you use the school grading model instead of the matchmaking model on these conversations, you are going to find yourself being whiplashed around like nobody's business, because every single person you talk to is going to have a different opinion on what you should do next, especially if you're not taking the quote unquote obvious next step in your career. And if you spend your time trying to get an A on 10 different people's 10 different rubrics, you're going to spend a lot of time running around in circles, and you're going to lose sight of the most important thing, the one thing that matters, which is getting an A on your own rubric. So as you start having all these conversations, the coffee chats, the informational interviews, the catch-up calls, the recruiter screens, the full-on interviews, remember, some of them are going to go well, some of them are going to be clunkers. And when you have a not so great call, remember to use the matchmaking model, not the school grading model. Now you might be wondering, but what if that skeptical person is right? What if I actually am off base, or I am explaining myself badly? How do I know when it's just a bad match versus when I really need to change something? That is a great question for us to discuss together. You can drop by anytime for a no strings attached coffee chat. It's not a sales pitch or a sales call, just an opportunity for us to talk about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you some one-off coaching and brainstorming about your situation. The link to book a coffee chat is above. Or you can also book a consult call, and we can map out what a full coaching engagement might look like. That way we can work together not only on navigating all the conversations you need to have, but also just on getting clear on what your next step should be and nailing the transition from where you are right now to where you want to be. The link to book a free consult call is also above. Or if you're listening on Instagram, both of those links are in my bio. Or if you're listening on the podcast, all those links are in my episode description.